Hello, welcome to Clickbait. I am Matt and today we're talking about the phenomena that is film photography in the modern world. Now, film photography has become incredibly popular in the last, couple of years really. Almost as popular, in fact, as before the digital revolution. In fact, it was International Analog Photography Day recently, but as that was actually organised by Lomography, a film company, it was a bit like me announcing it's International Like and Subscribe to Clickbait Day before watching at least 3 of my videos and hyping them day. So not 100% impartial, but we get what they're doing. When you think about it though, film photography is daft. It's slow, it's expensive. Roll of film, minimum £5, and that's for a cheapie. It's probably more, and more like £20 plus if you're going for something a bit nice like Cinestill or one of the more connoisseur emulsions, and that's just in 35mm, which is the cheap end of the spectrum. Then you've got developing it, whether you do it yourself or you pay to have it processed by someone else. Then you've got to have it scanned or scan it yourself, which takes forever, or get it printed, which is really so expensive. It all stacks up. And even then, after all that, it only gives you 24 or 36 shots if you're shooting 35mm. Medium format is 12, maybe 15 shots, probably less. And don't even get started on large format, and they both cost even more. Then you get the unusual formats, like the niche ones like 110 and 127, where either the film format is tiny or the camera is just terrible. And it's all just slow and it's all expensive. So you have to think what each frame is costing you in terms of pounds as well as time, and think really hard to make every single shot count. Why put yourself through that? But maybe that's the attraction, because when every shot is valuable, you have to slow down and think about what you're doing, and maybe just appreciate the image in front of you and really be sure before you hit that shutter. Now, step back to the dying days of film being the mainstream format, and for a little while I honestly didn't believe that digital would take over. The early cameras were just that bad. The place I worked at, we had a Kodak back built into a Nikon body. I think it was an F801. That thing cost 15 grand, and it only really worked when it was like a evenly overcast day. This would be a bit bright and contrasty for it. Forget highlights, forget shadows. It was rubbish, and it cost like more than a car. But now, images from a digital camera are more real than real. Grain doesn't exist below 3,000 or 4,000 ISO, and the tonal range of a RAW file is just mind-blowingly unbelievable. I mean, just look at that new Hello World blue marble picture from NASA. They shot that on a 10-year-old Nikon D5 into the sun in darkness from a spaceship, and it's just incredible. And on top of that, you've got autofocus that's so clever you barely even have to tell the camera what it's going to be focusing on. We almost, as photographers, don't have to think. How long will it be before cameras are just like AI drones that float around nearby us? We just wave in the general direction of the thing we want a picture of, and it'll take a picture for us. I mean, we're virtually there with DJI stuff already, aren't we? So what's the point of being a photographer anymore? And maybe that's the rub. There is pushback against that. A desire for something real that you can touch and interact with in the physical world. When you can hold that little jewel-like negative in your fingers, it becomes so much more special than the 1,000 or 10,000 images on your iPhone screen. And in 50 or 100 years' time, that picture on that little bit of emulsion will still exist. How many of your hard drives or your cloud accounts will still be operational or have password access that still works? Those pictures will be digitally lost or digitally locked or both. Whereas that little piece of film will still be there. If, when you retire all those years into the future, you want to look back on your school days, your college friends, your first days at your first jobs, your wedding day, your children's birthdays and first steps, this kind of thing. Those could be lost in digital world. However, if you took some of those pictures on film, those are forever. Look at these. I don't know who these people were or where these were taken, but this I think was probably around 150 years ago. And in another 150 years time, unless someone drops them, these glass slides are still going to be existing, and you can still just hold them up to the light and see those pictures. It doesn't matter what technology comes, what technology goes, what formats become obsolete. people in the future will still be able to pick this up and look at that picture. But it's not just the archival aspect of it. When everything is automated and so easy you barely have to think, nothing has value. It's so hard to appreciate something that was given to you for nothing. So photography almost becomes fast food, junk food for the soul, instead of the wholesome whole food for the soul that it should be. It's instant, but it's hollow. So, like with vinyl records, where people value the time it takes to select an album, the care it takes to take it out and put it on the turntable and lower the needle onto the vinyl, and then you hear the hiss and the crackle, the imperfections which digital irons out. That's the atmosphere. Is that the sound of the air that was in the room when that record was being recorded? Are we being sort of time traveling back to that time? Stream music's great, you can have it in your phone, listen to it anywhere on the train, whatever. But it's so clinical, that isn't. In the car world, which is sort of analogous with the camera world, a lot of people hate the idea of a self-driving car. Some of us can't even stand having an automatic. It's just too much control taken away. Me choosing what gear the car is in and what engine speed that goes along with that is part of the fun and part of the interaction, which makes everyday driving, just going to the shops, an engaging, fun thing to do. What are you going to do with a self-driving car? We're going to sit on Instagram and look at AI photos that someone else generated without even thinking about it as well. What is life for at that point? Now, I'm not alone in thinking this. There's a growing number of younger drivers who don't want a finance tech marvel mobility blob with automated everything and lane keeping assist and does everything for you. They're choosing deliberately cars that are 20, 30, 40 years old. They're perhaps less reliable, certainly harder to get parts for, but definitely crammed full with far more character and lots more engagement. At the extreme, values of pre-war vintage cars have been absolutely tanking for a few years now because the people who remember them and used to buy them have been, well, no longer in the car buying game, shall we say, and nostalgia tends to drive demand. But there are more and more people in their 20s and 30s, 40s at the high end, who are now driving cars from the 20s and the 30s, Austin 7s, Austin 6s, Morrises. They're driving cars and saving cars because they want something that's because it's difficult, because it's a thing you have to put effort into. They're driving cars that their grandparents have struggled to remember. Now, people my age remember going through the music formats from vinyl to tape to CD to MP3 to streaming, and then back again in reverse order. At the same time, there was 110, there was 35mm disc film, APS, and then suddenly digital with a new sensor making the last one obsolete every other year, and the countless forms of cable wire connection, and then the file formats, which want something permanent that doesn't change every 6 months. And digital natives, younger people who have only ever grown up knowing pure digital formats, they've got a nostalgia for this older time, and imagined nostalgia perhaps, for a time they weren't actually there for, that seemed, I don't know, more real in a way. I don't know if the past always just looks better, but sometimes there's maybe something to that. Now, I actually stopped shooting film for a really long time. When digital got good enough to replace my film cameras for work, I bundled all my film cameras away, and biggest mistake of my life, I sold my Hasselblad 503 kit. 3 lenses, metered head, motor drive, body, backs, all of it. Biggest mistake I have ever made, because now I'd love to shoot that thing again. But one day I was out shooting with a digital camera and I just kind of wanted more, something that the ease and instancy that digital wasn't giving. We all have this innate desire for real tactile images with depth and character, which is just a bit more than the clean, cold images of digital. And that's been going on for as long as Instagram has had filters, for as long as Fujifilm, who were one of the big film manufacturers of back in the day, have been making digital cameras. They've been putting their film simulation modes into their digital cameras, adding grain, adding colors, adding faults basically to make the images less perfect, basically. We all have this need for something real, for something slower. So the answer is simple: get a film camera. The greats of the analog days are now just incredible value. I picked up a complete Minolta manual camera system for £30. Camera, 3 lenses, flash gun in a bag. I've paid under a tenner for a Canon EOS film camera, which is ridiculous for a camera that was hundreds of pounds new. Even Halo professional bodies like my Nikon F4 I picked up for £130 on eBay, and it works perfectly. And even the lenses are still awesome. They are not necessarily as sharp or as clinically colour perfect as the latest and greatest, but those little imperfections give it a depth and a warmth and a character that are just different, but it's something more perhaps. There is a phrase, imperfection is beauty, because if something is too perfect, is it truly beautiful? And of course, a lot of those old lenses, as well as being relatively cheap apart from a few outlying incredible ones, you can either directly or via adapters use most of them with modern digital camera systems. So you've got this amazing cross-pollination of kit. So you can use your modern lenses on your old cameras, your old lenses on your new cameras, and again, get different results if you start experimenting with these different things. It is the joy of experimentation and going out and shooting pictures where you just see what happens. And of course, with so much cool old kit out there for cheap, it's very hard not to go down a rabbit hole of collecting unusual things like this Canon Demi. So with your film camera in your hand, with your roll of FP4 or Kodacolor or CineStill loaded, you can go out and then really appreciate your time taking pictures. It's your time that you're putting something of yourself into and getting something back from, because you're exploring. And that brings me back to that first question. Yes, it is slow, and yes, it is expensive. So when I'm out with a film camera, I'll see something to take a picture of and not take a picture more often than I actually do push the button, because I don't want to waste a shot. So when I do commit that scene to film, chances are it's a better picture. If you're a newcomer to photography, you can learn more from what you don't take from what you do by stopping to think about that composition and exposure, even for just a couple of seconds longer. Whether you're doing shallow depth of field, a slow shutter speed, are you going to get down a bit lower, get a bit higher, get that perfect shot? You're going to exercise your creative muscles, and that keeps you sharp. I'm not new to photography, but we all need to go and hit that sort of mental gym every now and then. With a digital camera, I'd probably just take the shot and not even think about it. I might shoot a few variations around it. Maybe it would tidy up in Photoshop and wind up as a stock library photo with no consequence, and just maybe sit there and maybe never make any money, maybe make a few pennies in 20 years time. I don't know. Or more than likely, it just get deleted. Often I'll go out with a fresh roll of film and not finish it if I'm just walking around for the day. It might sit in the camera for a couple of weeks. If the camera gets put into a drawer and I get a different camera out to play with, it could be there for months or longer. So when it does get developed, it's almost a surprise to see where I've been and what I've done. It takes you back to the old days of pre-digital, when you'd have the camera and you'd have the roll of film, and it would be used at Christmas, at someone's birthday in spring, family holiday, going back to see your friends at school. All these things would be on this one roll of film, and you'd almost forget everything that was on there, and finally it would get sent off to bonus print or wherever, and it would come back and everyone would gather around and look and appreciate the pictures, and it would be a time machine of memories. Unlike snapping stuff on your phone today, obviously you can't start the meal until you've taken a picture of the dinner and your friend sat with the dinner. Then you've got to post those on Instagram, share it instantly, see it, and it's gone. That's not special anymore. Those phone pics are inconsequential. They're a moment that's fleeting and vanished. With film, that's there forever. So I think these are some of the reasons why people are going back to film. Maybe we're having a bit of a spike in popularity and this resurgence will calm down a bit in a couple of years' time. But no, I think it's here to stay. I think there's always going to be a need and a desire for something real in the world. And the more automated, the more AI things get, this is where people are going to go, so they can actually escape from the electronic AI world into a world of reality with a roll of film. Because the more that gets taken from us in the name of convenience, doing something that connects you with the world around you, that creates something real you can see and touch, it's grounding, it's real, it's like gardening without the mud. And another aspect, which I haven't touched on at all, is the community aspect of it. Because if you start posting your pictures from film onto social media, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, wherever, you're going to meet other people who are doing the same thing. You're going to have conversations you wouldn't otherwise have. Going around car shows now, I'm seeing lots of other people with film cameras, and so stopping to chat to them about their cameras, and they're stopping to me to talk about my cameras. The other day I was out in Oxford and I just happened to be killing time waiting for someone with my Nikon F4, and a guy came up to me And he was like, wow, is that a Nikon F4? And he was a younger guy, he'd never seen one before. So I said, yeah, here, have a play with it. Hold it, see how heavy it is. You won't believe it. Turned out he was a student at Oxford University from China. And we had an interesting conversation about, our lives and what we were doing. And he was a person that I would never have met otherwise if it wasn't for this little Nikon camera from 35 years ago. And I still got to go and take lots of nice photos around Oxford, but because I haven't finished that roll of film yet, I can't show them to you yet. Maybe I will in a little while. Check out Instagram in a few weeks' time. So if you're already shooting film, brilliant. Keep doing it. You already know how fantastic it is. If you've been thinking about it, then what's stopping you? The cameras are cheap, the film maybe isn't quite so cheap, but you will appreciate it when you do it. And it's not as hard to find the raw materials as you might think. I've been using Analog Wonderland for the last couple of years. They sell film, they process film, black and white and colour, slide and print. And I've just discovered a place called Not Quite North, who I think are somewhere in the north. And there's various other places. You can even buy film like FP4 and HP5 in Boots still, believe it or not. So it's not difficult to access. And a lot of the cameras run on AA batteries, which is really easy to get hold of as well. So there's really no reason not to give it a go. I'll leave you to go and continue celebrating International Like, Subscribe, Hype and Watch 3 of Clickbait's Videos Day, because it is officially that, I've made it so. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon. Like and subscribe, you know the drill. Goodbye.